In January 2015, the quiet town of Fayetteville, Arkansas, buzzed with the typical hum of daily life. Among its residents was Johnny Ray Baxter, a seemingly devoted husband and father. He had married Darlene Baxter several years prior, welcoming her daughter, Lily Adams, into their home. What began as a harmonious family life took a dark turn as Johnny found himself engaged in an illicit affair with his young stepdaughter, Lily. At first, the relationship felt like a secret escape for both Johnny and Lily. As they shared stolen moments together, the boundaries of their familial roles blurred. Johnny, struggling with personal issues, found solace in Lily's youth and innocence. By February 2015, Johnny and Lily found themselves deeply entangled in a web of deceit that threatened to unravel their lives. Their secret affair had become a fragile thread, requiring constant attention to ensure it remained hidden from Darlene. While Darlene went about her daily routines, blissfully unaware of the emotional turmoil simmering within her home, the tension between Johnny and Lily grew increasingly palpable. Every interaction between Johnny and Lily was laced with unspoken words and stolen glances. They meticulously planned their moments together, often retreating to the secluded corners of the house where they could share a laugh or a private conversation without arousing suspicion. Yet, despite their best efforts to conceal their relationship, the strain of their deception began to show. Darlene, attuned to the moods of her loved ones, began to sense that something was off. She noticed Johnny's distracted demeanor, how he would often stare blankly into space, lost in thought, and how he seemed to pull away from her emotionally. Darlene also observed the way Johnny and Lily exchanged furtive glances, quick smiles, or whispered conversations when they thought she wasn't looking. These small moments made her uneasy, but she dismissed them as signs of stress stemming from work. As weeks passed, the weight of their secret grew heavier for both Johnny and Lily. Each time they met, they felt the anxiety of being discovered looming over them like a dark cloud. Johnny struggled to balance his role as a loving husband with his hidden relationship, feeling guilty for betraying Darlene, while also being drawn to Lily in ways he could not explain. Lily, too, felt conflicted. She craved the emotional connection they shared, but knew it was wrong. The thrill of their secret was slowly overshadowed by the fear of being caught. This emotional turmoil began to create rifts within the family. Darlene's once warm and inviting home started to feel tense and strained. Family dinners, once filled with laughter, became quiet affairs, punctuated by uncomfortable silences. Friends and relatives who visited noticed the subtle changes in the Baxter household, the forced smiles, the awkward glances, and the underlying tension that hung in the air. Yet, no one could pinpoint the true source of the problem. In an attempt to alleviate her worries, Darlene sought to reconnect with Johnny, planning outings and family activities to bring them closer together. However, Johnny's mind was often elsewhere, distracted by thoughts of Lily and the lies he had constructed. The more Darlene tried to bridge the growing gap, the more isolated Johnny felt, caught between his responsibilities as a husband and his illicit desires for his stepdaughter. As the pressure mounted, Johnny and Lily became increasingly reckless in their attempts to keep their affair hidden. They exchanged texts late at night, planning secret meetups and sharing their innermost thoughts. Their conversations grew more intense, filled with longing desire, but also fear of discovery. With each passing day, the risk of being found out escalated, leaving them both on edge. Darlene's instincts told her that something was wrong, but she couldn't quite grasp what it was. She confided in close friends, expressing her concerns about Johnny's behavior, but they reassured her that it was likely just work-related stress. Darlene clung to this notion, believing that with a little patience and understanding, things would return to normal. However, as the days turned into weeks, The secrets and lies began to weave a complex tapestry of deceit that would soon unravel in a way no one could have anticipated. The emotional stakes were rising, and the fragility of their lives hung in the balance. Little did they know that their carefully constructed facade was on the brink of collapse, and the truth was about to come to light, leading to devastating consequences for everyone involved. In March 2015, the Fragile Fay aid that Johnny and Lily had worked so hard to maintain finally crumbled. The truth came crashing down when a close friend of Darlene's overheard a troubling conversation between Johnny and Lily at a local coffee shop. Friend, taken aback by what she heard, felt compelled to confront Darlene. With a hushed tone filled with disbelief, she revealed the affair, sharing the details that would shatter Darlene's world. As the words sank in, Darlene felt a cold wave wash over her. The betrayal cut deep, piercing through the love and trust she had placed in Johnny. Her mind raced, replaying moments she thought were innocent, now tainted by the realization of his deceit. The image of their family life, once filled with joy, began to distort, replaced by a storm of emotions, shock, anger, and profound heartbreak. Darlene struggled to comprehend the betrayal. How could Johnny, the man she had married, the father figure she had trusted for Lily, engage in such an affair? The thought of her husband with her daughter felt like a nightmare from which she could not wake. Overwhelmed, she fought back tears as the reality of the situation settled in. Darlene's heart shattered, and the anger began to rise within her. In a fit of rage, Darlene confronted Johnny that evening. She found him in the living room, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. The moment she stepped through the door, Johnny sensed that something was off. Darlene's eyes burned with fury and hurt, and as she faced him, the tension in the room became palpable. "Tell me the truth," she demanded, her voice quivering with emotion. Johnny's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. Darlene's words echoed like thunder in his ears, and he knew he was cornered. "Darlene," he began, but she cut him off, her voice rising. "Don't you dare try to justify this. I know about you and Lily." The accusation hung in the air, and Johnny felt the weight of her words hit him like a physical blow. The confrontation erupted into an explosive exchange, filled with accusations and tears. Darlene unleashed her fury, questioning Johnny's loyalty and love. "How could you do this to us? To our family?" she cried, each word laced with pain. Johnny, overwhelmed and terrified of losing everything he had built, struggled to find the right words. He tried to explain, to justify his actions, but nothing seemed adequate. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he stammered, his voice shaking. "Lily and we just got caught up in something." "But you are the adult," Darlene shouted, her voice filled with disbelief. "You should have known better." As Johnny faced the storm of Darlene's anger, he felt guilt and shame wash over him. He realized that his attempts to defend himself only deepened her hurt. The weight of his betrayal hung heavily in the air, making it difficult to breathe. Darlene's anguish was palpable, and Johnny's heart ached as he watched the woman he loved crumble before him. The confrontation escalated as emotions reached a boiling point. Darlene felt betrayed not only by Johnny, but also by Lily, the girl she had welcomed into her home and treated as her own. "How could she do this to me? How could you?" Darlene's voice broke as she spoke, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, the foundation of their family shattered. Johnny was left grasping for redemption, but all he could see was the destruction he had caused. As the confrontation reached its peak, the atmosphere in the room shifted from anger to despair. They both realized that the love they once shared had been tainted, leaving behind a haunting emptiness. As Darlene's cries echoed through the house, Johnny understood that there was no escaping the consequences of his actions. The truth had been revealed, and their lives would never be the same. The once happy home was now filled with heartbreak and betrayal, and the path forward seemed uncertain and treacherous for everyone involved. On April 1, 2015, the atmosphere in the Baxter home was thick with tension, a storm brewing beneath the surface. The once happy family was now a fragile facade, and the mounting pressure of Johnny's secret affair with Lily had created a volatile environment. As night fell, the household became a battleground, and it was clear that something had to give. That evening, a seemingly innocent conversation escalated into a heated argument. Johnny, feeling cornered by guilt and fear, was consumed by jealousy. He was terrified of losing both Lily and Darlene, and the weight of his actions had turned his heart into a cauldron of rage. Darlene, sensing that something was very wrong, confronted Johnny about his distant behavior, demanding to know why he had been so withdrawn. Her questions ignited a firestorm of emotions in Johnny, who felt trapped in a web of lies. As their voices echoed through the house, the argument intensified. Johnny, unable to articulate the turmoil within him, resorted to aggressive words. "You don't understand what I've been going through," he shouted, his face flushed with anger. Darlene, desperate to protect her daughter and salvage what was left of their family, refused to back down. "I've done everything for you, and you're pushing us away." "What's going on?" she replied, her voice shaking with emotion. With each accusation, the tension escalated. The air crackled with hostility as the two exchanged heated insults. Darlene felt her heart racing, a mix of fear and determination fueling her resolve. She had always stood by Johnny, but now she felt like she was fighting for her family's survival. Johnny, feeling increasingly threatened, could not see the damage his choices had caused. His jealousy twisted into a desperate need to assert control over a situation that was slipping away from him. In a moment, fueled by years of pent-up frustration and resentment, Johnny lashed out. He struck a nearby table, sending objects flying, which startled Darlene and sent a wave of fear coursing through her. She fought back, both physically and emotionally, trying to reach the man she once loved. "You're hurting us, Johnny. You need to stop this," she pleaded, but her words only seemed to incite him further. The confrontation quickly spiraled out of control. Johnny's aggression transformed from verbal to physical in an instant. In a moment of unbridled rage, he pushed Darlene away. She stumbled back, trying to regain her footing and calm him down, but the situation had escalated beyond her control. As Darlene fought to protect herself, her instincts kicked in. She grabbed a nearby lamp, using it as a shield. But Johnny, blinded by anger and fear, didn't see her as his wife anymore, only as an obstacle standing in his way. In a tragic twist of fate, what started as a heated argument turned deadly. In a moment that would forever haunt them, Johnny, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't contain, lunged at Darlene. The struggle that followed was chaotic and heartbreaking. Johnny's rage, mixed with confusion, culminated in a violent act that shocked them both. Darlene fought fiercely, but in the heat of the moment, the line between self-defense and aggression blurred. The reality of their situation hit hard. This was not just an argument, but a life-altering confrontation that would leave lasting scars. As the confrontation reached its peak, the realization of what they had become set in a family torn apart by secrets, lies, and unaddressed pain. In that tragic moment, the fragile bonds of love were shattered, leaving a void that could never be filled. The once happy home, filled with laughter and warmth, was now a scene of chaos and heartbreak, setting the stage for an irreversible change in their lives. Little did they know that this confrontation would be the turning point in their tragic story, leading to consequences far beyond what any of them could imagine. The morning of April 2, 2015, dawned with an eerie silence hanging over Fayetteville. The sun rose, casting a pale light on the town, but something felt off. Friends and neighbors began to worry when Darlene had not been seen for days. She was known for her warm presence and active involvement in the community, so her sudden absence raised alarms. Concerned for her well-being, several friends decided to call the police for a welfare check at the Baxter home. When officers arrived at the house, they knocked on the door and waited. After receiving no response, they forced their way inside, unaware of the horror that awaited them. The atmosphere in the house was tense and cold, a stark contrast to the vibrant life that had once filled it. As they moved through the living room, the sight that met their eyes was chilling. Darlene's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, surrounded by the remnants of a violent struggle. The officers quickly secured the scene, calling for additional units and crime scene investigators. Darlene had been brutally murdered, the evidence of Johnny's rage evident in the chaos surrounding her. As they examined the room, it became clear that this was no accident. The signs of a horrific confrontation were unmistakable. News of the tragedy spread like wildfire through the community. Residents were left in shock, struggling to comprehend how such a horrific event could occur in their quiet town. Darlene was beloved by many, known for her kindness and generosity. The loss of such a vibrant presence left a gaping hole in the hearts of those who knew her. Johnny was arrested at the scene, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. He was taken into custody, where he would have to confront the reality of his actions. As the investigation unfolded, it became evident that a tangled web of lies and betrayal had led to this tragic outcome. Authorities began piecing together the events that had transpired, uncovering the affair between Johnny and Lily and the turmoil that had enveloped the Baxter household. The community rallied around Darlene's family in their time of grief, organizing vigils and offering support to those left behind. Friends shared stories of her warmth and compassion, honoring the memory of a beloved mother and friend who had been taken too soon. The outpouring of love and support highlighted the deep connections Darlene had formed within the community. As the investigation continued, the grim details of the case emerged, painting a picture of a family torn apart by secrets and lies. Johnny's betrayal had led to a violent confrontation that shattered lives and left lasting scars on those who remained. The community grappled with the aftermath of the tragedy, struggling to reconcile the image of the caring family they once knew with the horrific reality that had unfolded. In the weeks that followed, the story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how quickly a seemingly perfect life could unravel. As the legal proceedings began, questions lingered in the air. How could it have come to this? What signs had been missed? And most importantly, how could a family torn apart by love and betrayal recover from such unimaginable loss? The answers remained elusive, leaving the community to mourn and reflect on the profound impact of the events that had transpired within the Baxter home. As the investigation continued through April and May 2015, the tragic events that unfolded in the Baxter household reverberated throughout the community. Lily Adams found herself at the center of a narrative she never wanted to be a part of, grappling with emotions that were both overwhelming and confusing. Torn between her loyalty to her mother, Darlene, and the guilt of her involvement in the affair with Johnny, she felt trapped in a world that had turned upside down. In the aftermath of the murder, the once close family unit had been shattered, leaving Lily to navigate the complex landscape of loss, betrayal, and shame. She struggled to make sense of her feelings, anger at Johnny for the choices he had made, sadness for her mother, and confusion over her own role in the unfolding tragedy. The weight of guilt pressed down on her, making it hard to breathe. Friends who had once been a source of comfort now felt distant, unsure of how to approach her without reopening old wounds. In July 2015, the atmosphere in Fayetteville, Arkansas, shifted dramatically as Johnny Ray Baxter stood trial for the murder of his wife, Darlene. The courtroom was filled with spectators, friends, family, and concerned community members, all eager to witness the proceedings and seek justice for the woman they had lost. News of the trial had spread throughout the town, and many people felt compelled to attend, hoping to gain insight into the tragic events that had unfolded within the Baxter household. As the trial began, the prosecution laid out a case that detailed the shocking circumstances surrounding Darlene's death. They painted a vivid picture of Johnny's emotional manipulation, illustrating how he had ensnared both Darlene and Lily in a web of lies and betrayal. Witnesses were called to testify, including family members and friends who described the seemingly perfect family life that had concealed the turmoil beneath the surface. The prosecution revealed evidence that showed Johnny's troubled state of mind leading up to the murder. They highlighted how his affair with Lily had driven him into a spiral of jealousy and rage. The emotional impact of his actions on both women was palpable in the courtroom, as testimonies recounted Darlene's loving nature and Lily's confusion and heartbreak over the betrayal. Each story added weight to the prosecution's argument, compelling the jury to confront the harsh realities of betrayal and its devastating consequences. In stark contrast, Johnny's defense team attempted to portray him as a man overwhelmed by circumstances beyond his control. They argued that the pressures of life had led him to a breaking point, and that he had acted in a moment of passion, not premeditation. However, the jury struggled to reconcile this defense with the overwhelming evidence of his guilt and the emotional devastation he had wrought on his family. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom reached its peak. The jury listened intently to the emotional testimonies, watching as Lily sat quietly, torn between loyalty to her stepfather and the reality of the pain he had caused. Her presence added a layer of complexity to the proceedings, as the community grappled with the fallout from Johnny's actions. After several days of intense deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the foreman stood to announce their decision. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Johnny Ray Baxter, guilty of the murder of Darlene Baxter." A collective gasp rippled through the spectators, and a wave of emotion washed over the room. Relief and sadness filled the air, knowing that justice had been served, but also recognizing the profound loss that had led to this moment. Johnny's expression was a mix of shock and despair as the reality of his situation sank in. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, a consequence of the choices he had made and the lives he had destroyed. As the judge delivered the sentence, the weight of the courtroom's grief was palpable. While Johnny faced the legal repercussions of his actions, the scars left by the crime would linger long after the verdict. In the months that followed, the community began to heal, but the impact of the tragedy remained etched in their memories. Darlene's friends and family mourned her loss deeply, grappling with the betrayal that had shattered their lives. Lily, too, faced a long road of healing as she navigated the complicated feelings of love, betrayal, and guilt that accompanied her stepfather's actions. Though justice had been served, the story of Johnny Ray Baxter and the tragedy that unfolded in the Baxter household served as a stark reminder of the consequences of betrayal and deceit. The scars left behind would shape the lives of those affected for years to come, a poignant testament to the fragility of family and the devastating impact of hidden secrets.